The vast majority of us are average, and average doesn't really sell. Hi everybody, my name is Greg Crable, and this is my podcast, Something I Learned Yesterday, in which I take one issue from the world of publishing and try to explain it in about 3 or 4 minutes. There's a lot of concern in the media business right now. It seems as if the world is coming unglued. Brands are dying or laying off a lot of people. I've heard lots of different explanations for this. And while there's some truth to many of them, I'm going to toss my own explanation into the mix. There are simply too many people providing content, and this is what happens. You've heard of the Pareto principle, that 20% of your customers account for 80% of your revenue, 20% of your employees do 80% of the work, and 20% of authors sell 80% of books. It's a spooky thing in at least 2 ways. First, it continues to apply as you dig down, so that if you take the top 20% of authors who sell 80% of the books, 20% of those authors sell 80% of those books. And that pattern continues to iterate as you go down until you find 1 or 2 people who sell most of the books. The second spooky thing is that this principle even applies to planets and ecosystems and hurricanes and such, so it's not just a quirk of human behavior. The internet has made it trivially easy to become a content creator. Bob Hoffman jokes that he finally met somebody who doesn't have a podcast. YouTube, TikTok, WordPress, all that, plus the fact that we now have a movie studio in our pocket. This results in an absolute tsunami of content, and AI is making it even worse. I just attended a session the other day where a friend explained how you can create a book with designer.io in about 10 minutes. Supply is, for all intents and purposes, unlimited. But while demand for internet content is way bigger than I ever expected it to be, people spend a huge amount of time on their phones, right? But it's still limited. There are only so many hours in a day. It stands to reason that the content space is going to have some casualties. Think of this. Spotify listeners spent 14.9 million total hours listening to the Joe Rogan Experience in the first month that was available on Spotify. Those 14.9 million hours were not spent somewhere else, on newspapers or magazines, for example. My take on all this is that if you're a media company, the answer won't be found in revenue or business model innovation. Those are good things, but they're not going to address the fundamental problem, which is that the top 20% are going to continue to take the lion's share. And with the constant addition of new creators, that top 20% is going to get better and better and better. You're competing in an ocean of content. New people are coming on board all the time, and while most of them are average and no particular threat, some of them are talented, and some small portion of them are super talented. My friend Jimmy Finkelstein recently tried to start a new media business on the premise that people want news from a moderate point of view. My first reaction was, no, people actually want to hear lunatics screaming about the end of the world. That's the cynical side of me coming out. But my second reaction was that that's really not the issue. The issue is talent. And I don't mean to speak against anyone at the Messenger. I'm sure there were some very talented people on staff there. But in every profession, you have some people who are so much better than the average that it defies understanding. Think of Patrick Mahomes or Stephen King. Those guys are on the extreme edge of the distribution curve. So my recommendation to media companies is to find extraordinary talent. Things like paywalls and first-party data and all that stuff, great, but they pale in significance to the effect of very talented people. And that's, I think, where we're going with media. So that's my thought. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Please drop a comment below. And by the way, I have a email newsletter, the Crable Report, that includes both my monthly Crable letter and other things that I have to say from time to time. Please go to my website and sign up. You'll see information on the next slide. Thanks so much.